The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to our weekly show called Keefer and Kurre. It's because he's Kip Keefer, I'm Tony Kurre, and we couldn't think of a better name, Keefer and Kurre. We do a lot of things together. Of course, we have our TV show called Starting the Lineup, which is, of course, going to be on the Saturday mornings. You are live in Las Vegas, and by listening to your last show, which runs congruently, by the way, on Tony Kurre Radio, Need to Know, which is a 30, 35-minute show. You talk about whatever you want. And then, of course, we do the Keefer Kurre show. Sometimes you'll find that there's some comparisons between the two because I'm listening to you do the first show, and sometimes I think, damn, that's an idea that I have for our next show. And so I kind of want to do that. So while you're out in Las Vegas, enjoying the glitz and glamour, nothing to worry about. You got the Sphere out there. You got the Eagles coming to town. You're checking out Las Vegas night games. You got a birthday coming up here in a week. I mean, it's all good in the world of Kip Keefer because you're in Las Vegas and it's all good. And then for a good reason, a lot of people go to Las Vegas because they don't want to know what's going on in the rest of the world. Is that fair? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I was here. This convention's the same first week of October. I was here last year when that terrible tragedy happened in Israel, and I didn't know about it for like 3 days because you're just blowing and going out here. Oh, and by the way, we named it Keefer and Kurre because some of our other nominees like Dim and Wit just didn't sound as good.
or two boobs and a blonde. That doesn't work either.
No.
So while we're doing this show, I woke up this morning at about 3:30. First of all, because I had to pee. It was about 30 minutes earlier than I usually have to. I need to go to an OBGYN for that. The Hurricane Milton was a 1. And as we start the show, and as you've just been doing, Need to Know, it is now a 5.
No, I had not heard that.
Yeah, it has intensified faster than any hurricane on record in the course of just 4 or 5 hours. It's gone from a 1 to a 5. It looks like it's going to hit right between Tampa and Fort Myers. They're saying it's not nearly as big as Helene was, but it will do more damage because it's coming in at an angle. It's kind of slipping the top near Cuba, and it's going to spin up to the left and knock it out. And I've heard numerous stories this morning. You know, it's one thing to have property on the Florida coastline and you have to go down there once or twice or 3 times a year and board up your buildings. And then New Orleans, we got friends that live in New Orleans and people that live down the beach. And it's another thing when a storm comes in like Ian or like Helene, where it just wipes out the entire state. And then in this state, I'm talking about North Carolina. But this particular case, we saw what Ian did to Florida. It's from top to bottom. It's from Tallahassee all the way down to Miami. It's just red. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. And I was talking to a friend of mine earlier this morning who works for State Farm Insurance, and they are scrambling. Every insurance company on the face of this earth. And by the way, there's only 4 insurance companies. I don't know if you knew this. I learned that from Home Field Advantage, which is a mortgage show I do here on Tony Kurre Radio. There are only 4 major insurance carriers in the United States. All the other insurance companies are underneath that umbrella of those 4 companies.
They're bought up, right?
Yeah. So if you're sitting there, well, I don't have, I have Geico, I have this, there's only 4 major ones that pretty much control everything. And so when one of those big ones says, we're not going to cover you anymore, that goes for everything that's underneath that umbrella, which may be another 20 or 30 different insurance companies. Well, I don't have them. Well, you probably do. You got to be covered by one of the 4. And I'm going to make a cluster of crud here, okay? But I want to spin this and I want to turn it into something good because by listening to your show, you always are a glass half full kind of guy, and that's what I love about you. I read this morning that we have now spent $61.3 billion on the Ukrainian crisis, on that war. We have now spent a record, and this just came out 3 hours ago, a record $17.9 billion on Israel since that war started in Gaza, where, by the way, 42,000 people have died. And then to throw everything into this big ball of whatever you want to call it, we have an election coming up in 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I'm saying is I wish like hell I was in Las Vegas right now. I wish I was sitting at a sports book and can turn all this off. But as an American, I feel like this is the first time in my life. I'm 58 years old. This is the first time in my life this morning that I've actually have a certain level of anxiety And this is me. I'm the most positive minded guy you're ever going to find. I mean, I'll put a spin on anything. And I know the Lord is great, and I know that he's going to be sufficient for our needs, and I know that he's going to get us through everything we need to, unless, of course, he's coming back the second time before this all happens.
Yeah, which is written.
It is written, and everything that's happened in all the prophecies have come true. It's going to happen. We just don't know when that's going to be. Maybe we'd be better off if it was sooner than later. But I kind of want you to tackle some of these things because I'm from the idea, and you know a lot more about politics than I do. I always want to know, where the hell is this money coming from? Where is all the money coming from? If you're sitting there telling me that FEMA is run out of money, and I realize that everyone's got their own. Let me put this in order here. A lot of people, when UAB football fell apart in 2015, 2016, a lot of people said, "Wait a minute, isn't UAB one of the greatest hospitals in the world? Don't they make billions and billions and billions of dollars at UAB? Don't they make more money than the University of Alabama, which they're under their umbrella?" And I'm like, yeah, they do. And people don't understand. They're like, well, why can't we move some of that money and save the football program? Because for the same reason, when you can't take money from the football program and try to save the volleyball program, you have to have your individual budgets, okay? It's not to say you can't redo the budgets at the end of the year, but just because you have a large pot of money and you have something that's being just absolutely bludgeoning you in budget-wise and it's losing money doesn't mean you need to pour a lot more money into it unless it works. And so people are going, gosh, it's $61.3 billion. Hell, we could have stroked a check to everybody down in the state of Florida and helped them through this hurricane. I get that.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I wonder, what the hell are we doing? Why aren't we doing that? And then when you realize, what our immigration situation is, and it's not just Florida, it certainly goes all the way along the coast, all the way to Texas, and how many people are down there that we've let into the country illegally. It's for the first time though, and I want you to kind of talk me through. I want you to hold my hands. So you can hold both my hands if you want. And
I'm here for you, Tony.
Yeah, and kind of walk me through, because I'm feeling a little anxious this morning. Like I started getting the sweats. I thought it was my medication at first, but it's not. And I'm thinking, I'm starting to do some, I'm going, okay, what's happening here? First of all, I know we live in the greatest country in the world, period. That's it. I don't care where you live. The United States is the greatest country. We have a shitload of problems in this country, and it's because we're free. And it's because everyone's got a voice and everyone's got an opinion. And I get that. We still live in the best country in the world. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But it does scare me, because it feels like we're just running out. It's like we got too many things on the fire right now. What are your thoughts on all that stuff? I know I throw a lot at you, but the thing is, you're in the richest city in the world outside Dubai. You're in a city that's probably got more cash flow than any other city in the world, and we got a money problem.
Yeah. It's amazing phenomenon. And I my first response to you is, if you go back, the guys that said, we've had enough of this being pushed around in England, in France, in Germany, back in the 1700s, you had a massive flow of people come to this country with the idea of, I'm getting the hell out of here, because and you have to adjust the of course the whole calculus with the times. They didn't face the problems in terms of weapons of mass destruction and the terrifying things that you think about now, but their lives were being inhibited by the people ruling them, which mostly were monarchies. And they said, to hell with this. We're going to go to the new world and establish a better way of life. And that was the motivation. I love the story, Tony. You always hear about American exceptionalism. And the term American exceptionalism came from basically biblical origins. Reagan used to make references to the shining city on the hill. That's in the Bible. Mm-hmm. All eyes will be cast on this shining city. And these people came mainly fueled by religious fervor. And on the way over to this country, a guy named John Winthrop, which a university is named after him in North Carolina, Winthrop University. John Winthrop was a preacher and made a speech on a boat before he even got to America, talking about we're embarking on the greatest mission in human history to establish the shining city on the hill. Took it right from the Bible. And he said, but in order to achieve that, we have to be exceptional. The whole dream of America needs to be based on exceptionalism. It needs to be rooted in the fact that we're going to be the most virtuous, most driven, most devout, most dedicated people to the principles of liberty and freedom possible. And that's where people misunderstand. Even Donald Trump running for president was asked about American exceptionalism last time. He said, well, I can see where that term is offensive to people. I'm sure if you live in Thailand, you are believing that Thailand's exceptional. If you live, but that's not what it means. It doesn't mean we're better than you. It doesn't mean we're great. It means we have a huge bar to live up to as a country and a society to be exceptional so we can be the shining city on the hill. And it's kind of basic, and it sounds like a rhetorical answer to your question, but I think we've gotten away in America from that concept. The founders, what they wrote and what they foresaw, Tony, and the American Revolution, and these guys were putting their lives on the line. They were guilty of treason because we were still under British rule. They could have been arrested and hung, and some of them were. Yeah. But they put their name on that document and said, "This is what we believe in, and this is what we're going to be." Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Pursuit of happiness doesn't mean being out here and drinking beers in Las Vegas and going to the sports book and going to the Eagles. That's all happy moments. But pursuit of happiness means to be the most virtuous, dedicated people that we can possibly be. And that, according to the forefathers, is the way to achieve satisfaction and happiness. And it was all part of this great goal. And as the centuries have gone on, we've kind of gotten away from that concept. The biggest fear the founding fathers had was to have a massive, all-controlling government form in this country. That's what they ran away from. That's what they bolted the course for, to create something different. And now you've got people that never have been a believer in the American experiment, because that's what Abraham Lincoln calls it, the most audacious experience in human history, to say we can have a republic of the people, by the people, for the people. But now we have allowed this creeping kind of intervention in our way of life, where people in Washington have kind of broken away, and they are their own elite society. And every dollar that you and I send to Washington from our hard work goes into what they think is their money. Yep. It's not me, and it's not you and me anymore. We're not in charge of jack shit. They have taken on this role of being all wise, all powerful, and it's exactly what the forefathers were afraid of. And when you say we've spent $63 billion in Ukraine. I mean, what's happening in Ukraine is appalling. But if that means we don't have money to take care of our own citizens who have not had power or cell service, or their homes have been washed away, everything they have is gone. Mountains were literally tumbling to the ground because of the excessive rain. If we've reached that point, where we're more worried about people in Lebanon and in the Gaza Strip and Ukraine than we are about Americans, we've totally lost our way, Tony. You asked where the money's coming from. It's coming from me and you and everybody else listening to this. And they're spending that money how they want to spend it. We don't have a say in the whole thing. Yeah. And the only say we have is the political process. But it's been hijacked now, because even, and that's why I say all the time, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, because I think when people get to Washington, they're on the other team now. This is a large controlling government that wants you and me, you you and me to pay for their activities to do whatever the hell they want and print whatever money they want. That's why everything is so expensive, because, okay, hey, let's do a big relief plan, $1 trillion, a budget reduction or whatever, Inflation Reduction Act, which they just spent on all their political supporters and their cronies and their own projects. Has $1 trillion reduced the term is so ridiculous. It hasn't reduced
and we know exactly what that was too, because I mean it came right during COVID, and everyone was looking for a piece of pie, and it was purely a political move. And
absolutely,
part of me is like I'm all about corrections in life, and sometimes you don't learn anything unless you go through a certain amount of pain. That's also a biblical thing, right?
Yes,
God chastises the ones He loves, and I thought to myself, I remember sitting here and I got a check for $5,600 from the government during COVID. I don't know what it was for. I still don't know what it was for. I know I had to give half of it to my ex-wife because it was from the government, and I had to give everything, and we were going through tax and stuff. And I thought, wow. And I can remember doing a show saying, when they were giving out these stimulus checks of $400 or whatever it was, I'm like, you don't have to do this. Well, I'll figure this out. I know my business is closed. I know it's hurting my business. I know a lot of people out there in different situations. Some people are worse than I am. Some people are better. And this hurts. Now, as far as in forbearances and maybe letting us slide a little bit on some payments, I'd really appreciate that. And I think most people did that. My mortgage company did that. My auto insurance company did that. Everybody was like, take your time. We'll get there. But I don't mind so much the pain, because we were all going through it.
Yeah.
And what we try to do is just throw just a boatload of money at it and try to fix it. And for a lot of people, it did. And because of that, more than three fourths or 75% of every dime that came out of the government was spent illegally on shit that we didn't need. Right?
Yes.
Everyone was doing PPP loans and everything, was taking millions and millions of dollars out. People were creating, people are still starting businesses in Florida and using the BP oil money to open businesses in Florida.
It's amazing.
I have a friend of mine who I will not say, who just opened up a bar in Florida 3 months ago. And I'm like, how the hell did you do this? He's broke. He did it because he's got BP money from 12 years ago. They still have billions of dollars in this slush fund down there that they still haven't gone through. And he created a business based on something that happened 10 to 11 to 12 years ago. Smart, dumb, criminal, whatever you want to call it. It's there. Let me ask you. Let me
go ahead to respond to your point. Government believes that they are they're basically our parent now.
Yeah.
Oh, our sheep need some help. So let's pass out some of their own money and print money we don't have. That's why inflation's through the roof, because you've got a government that just prints up money that has no value. But what that does is the money that's in circulation becomes less valuable, because a dollar is diminished by this pretend money that they just print up. So it's for every dollar manufactured, your dollar in your pocket is worth less and less. That's why things cost so much.
A lot, and I can't help it. A lot of this feels like it came back from like the 2007, 2008, 2009 crash too. When remember when all the banks closed and all the dealerships, all the car dealerships are making
and
the money.
The government bailed them out.
They bailed them out.
We bailed them out. That's the thing they don't understand. It's not the government bailing them out. It's you and me. It's our money they're spending.
There were more mortgage companies in Birmingham than churches. I want you to think about that for a minute. There are more mortgage companies in this town than there were churches. I want you to think about that. And of course, 99% of those went bye-bye. Because if you took the buyout from the government, what happened? Okay, now you have to play by our rules.
Yep,
okay,
that's right.
When they bailed out Ford, when they bailed out
You're
Chevy,
on the hook.
If you didn't take any of the money from the government, you were on your own, but you still stood by your own rights and you could do whatever you want. But if you took money from the government, you're going to do it our way. And it's just I would say right now, government's as big as it's ever been, and I hope it doesn't get any bigger.
And there's still money out there. Yeah. I get 2 calls a week from these schmucks at these places. I see your company continue to operate through COVID in 2020. Yeah. We've still got, you're eligible for up to $50,000 a month or something for, I don't know what they call it, but I mean, so there's still all this money the government's created. It's still in circulation.
I got a phone call last week. They wanted to give me like over $10,000 for $3,700 per employee. And I said, I have one. and I don't want to have to answer to you. I've already taken out my PP loan. I got my $7,500. I spent it. I went ahead and paid it back. I don't want to have you guys looking at my stuff at all. I've got enough issues with the IRS. Let me ask you this, because, and we could do a million shows, and I love talking to you about this stuff because I really feel like you know what you're doing. If we just cut off, the war thing really pisses me off.
Oh,
there is no short war.
Tony, it's never going to end.
No, it's not. It's never going to end. It's never going to end. It's never going to end.
And let me throw in another poison pill in Ukraine. Zelensky is not a hero. Zelensky is a thug. He's the president of Ukraine. They say this is a democracy. It's not a democracy. No. The first thing he did was jail the guy he beat for president when he became president. No. I mean, this guy and Ukraine is probably the most corrupt country on earth. No, these guys, half the money we're sending them are going into people's pockets, not for the people of Ukraine.
This whole idea of Biden saying, well, I'm going to send you $800 million worth of missiles, but you're not allowed to shoot them into Russia. This is ridiculous. This is fucking war. Okay. This is war, and there are no rules. There are no rules. Yeah. People talk about some people talk about genocide. They talk about rules of war. They talk about laws of war. You're killing innocent people every single day.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't give me this crap about, oh, this is illegal or this is illegal. We can't do this because he's a war criminal, blah, 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 blah. That is a bunch of horse shit. We're killing each other. We're killing 3 and 4 year old children every single day.
And financing it.
And financing it. So I don't want to hear about that. And unfortunately, two guys, Keefer and Kurre, I wish we could do more. Maybe by people listening to this podcast, maybe we can move the needle a little bit. But I do wonder if the United States, and I'm curious. I'm not saying I'm going this way, but I'm curious because Donald Trump keeps saying that these two wars are going to end the minute he takes office.
Mm-hmm.
He's full of shit. First of all, he lies about everything, and I know that, and you know that too. He says things that we want to hear, and one person can't end the war in Ukraine, but he can move the needle quite a bit. And I'm wondering, you don't get into a fight with someone unless two things happen. First of all, you could win. Or second of all, you know how it's going to turn out. And right now, we don't have an answer to either one of those. I mean, you ask Ukraine, one day they feel like they're going to win, the next day they're not. We got all these rich people that had all their yachts and shit taken away. I don't know what's going on. What's happening? We have a big dock somewhere with all these boats and all these billions of dollars, and they're still pumping out oil. They're still pumping out things. Hell, Russia's getting equipment stuff from Iran. I mean, it's ridiculous, and it's never going to end. It's never going to end because you know why? We can create military operations and missiles and bombs faster than we can blow them off.
Well, because,
so it's never going to end.
Like you said, there's so many layers to this. A big reason that there's just so much war now is because one of the biggest political sponsors of one of the parties, and they also have investments on both sides. Again, the parties kind of blend. You've got a few really idealistic people on both sides, but most of them are just on the Washington team because everybody that why do you think they fight so hard to get reelected? They start running for reelection the first day they're in service. Yep. The reason is because it's the best gig on earth, Tony. If you go to Washington, Northern Virginia, the gated communities, the houses, and they're all government employees. It's the biggest gravy train ever invented.
Do you remember when Tommy Tuberville said he was going to run for office and he came into our studio? Of course, he was just slightly removed from doing the text type thing. He came and I was like, I said, why do you want to get in politics? And he's like, because I care more about this country and blah, 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 blah. Now I know.
Tommy's the greatest gig on earth.
The greatest gig on earth. And
they won't give it up.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to watch all that unfold. And it's not about me and you. It's about what they get. How can any American not be appalled, but we just shrug and forget about it? Harry Reid, I'm in Nevada right now. He had declared bankruptcy 2 years before he said, hey, I think I'll run for Senate. So he ran for the Senate. He had been like a local politician in some podunk town here in Nevada. He won that. This guy came from bankruptcy, Tony. He served in Washington for 28 years as a senator, which that wasn't the intention of the founding fathers either. You were supposed to ride your horse up there, vote on a couple things, and get your ass back and harvest your crop. These career politicians, when Harry Reid walked away from Washington, Tony, a job that as a senator pays $180,000, he had $35 million net worth. Where the hell did that, I always use the stronger word, where did that come from? It comes from getting a check from everybody who wants you to support them. And in this case, tragically, Raytheon and a lot of the huge military infrastructure companies that make all these bombs, make all these tanks, make all these planes, they are financing Washington and putting money in all these people's pockets. And, a lot of people are getting filthy rich while the country's just going to hell on a bobsled.
And that's why Boeing can probably crash a plane every week for the rest of the year, and they're still going to be in business. They're still going to be in business. Hey, man, I could sit here and talk to you like 14, 15 more hours, but we got to go. We have to leave for next week. Hey,
I don't know how hopeful that message was, but the thing is,
I'm not shaking like I was, so I think you did a good job.
Well, that's good. My message to wrap this up, Tony, is the American people need to, they keep talking about protest as part of being American. Well, where's the American protest of enough of this bullshit government? Stop spending our money on stupid shit that doesn't help any Americans. We are the kindest, most generous, most giving country in the history of mankind. But at some point, you've got to take care of your own people, your own country, or the gravy train's going to come to a halt. But in the meantime, the people that put money in their pockets just are going to, like Don Johnson once said when he was on Miami Vice, somebody said, "How long are you going to do this show?" And he goes, "Hey, I'm going to ride her till she bucks me." and that's kind of the attitude they have.
Now he's on the love boat.
Don Johnson's a beast. Anyway, the hopeful message is Americans need to get out in the street and say enough of this. Yep. We want our country back. We want our country back the way it's supposed to be, not just being irresponsible and being pretty much Americans last. And, I don't say that lightly, but, I love every brother and sister I have that are my countrymen. And that's my first priority. And that needs to be everybody's first priority.
Hopefully that'll all start on November 5th. We'll see. Thank you, my friend. Hey, have a great time out in Las Vegas. I want you to turn off all social media and turn off all the news because there's nothing good on it. We'll take care of it on our end. You go out there and just have a hell of a good time.
Well, I get to see my grandson tonight.
I know you do. I know you're going to probably cry. I know. Go see your grandson.
He's the man.
You got a birthday coming up, and we'll be doing the show, the starting lineup from Las Vegas out there. So
I'm going to be on the boulevard for my part, which I can't wait.
It's going to be pretty cool.
I'll have my SEC shirt on, and we'll get that cranked up this week.
By the way, I did mention, I think you saw this, K4 Wins, a little show that we also do. We do a show with you and your son and Kai and myself. I think we were 13-0. I don't even like to throw the number out because I know people are going to go, whatever.
Go to the website.
You go to the website and look. We were 13-0 and got in professional football yesterday. It was crazy. A perfect 5-0 yesterday. And then, of course, we hit some early picks. So check those out, and we'll have some more plays. We take our plays from the starting lineup along with Case and, of course, live from the desert. You guys, I'm expecting some really good bells and whistles from you guys since you're going to be out there together picking ball games. You two handicapping together over a couple of beverages should give us some big-time winners. So I'm looking forward to that.
We'll see what we can do. There's for college football, there's an occult shop right down the street. I'm going to go buy a crystal ball or something because college football is insane now.
Let me know what it says about Trent Dilfer and his job security week.
I will. I'm praying for Trent. What a great guy, and what a shame that UAB is off to such a disastrous start.
We'll see what happens. My two favorite teams are 1-4. It's not the end of the world. The sun will come up tomorrow. Enjoy your vacation, my friend, and all the hard work you do. We'll talk to you a little bit.
Thanks, Tony.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.